Is it live? It says it's live. Am I running late? Yes. Do I have a valid excuse for that? No, not really. Not really, sorry. Okay. But I'm here. I'm ready to go. Everything's sanitized. Everything's ready. So we're gonna be fine. Fine. Today we're making the best ever emulsified body butter, which if you've never made this or tried it, you're missing out. So maybe now's your time. Maybe the moment is now. Can I make this big? No, that makes it small. Okay, there we go. That's as good as it gets. Okay, so let's give it everything one last kind of little. Pretty sure. Don't need my scale anymore, so I'm gonna put it up here and give all this like one last little good wipe down. And all these are clean. So nice. Have everything be clean. The table is clean. That's what takes me so long. The longest part and the most difficult part of the emulsified body butter is getting everything sanitized. Okay? After that, it's really very easy. Okay? So if you're like, oh, I'm scared to make body butter, aka lotion, right? Because I've never done that and it's emulsified and it has preservatives and it scares me, well then this is a really good recipe for you because it's very, excuse her, it's very easy. Okay? I'm gonna use a double boiler, but you don't have to. You could use a pot and then you could put like inside of it, or you could just, like when I make big batches, I don't use a double boiler. Like, does anybody have a double boiler that's like this big? No, I mean maybe, but I don't. So I don't even use a double boiler when I do big batches. I just make sure that I'm stirring it the whole time and keeping that going the whole time. So I'm going to get my double boiler started. I might need to add some more water to it, but not at this moment. Nectaria says hello. You came to watch and then you were confused for a minute. Yeah. I was just running a little bit late. Okay, my bad. I overslept. Which, I know that people are like, it's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Your point. I still overslept, okay? My internet connection was restored. Anyway, my kids are 20 and 14. I can sleep all day if I want to. But I also stay up till like 4 a.m., so it's fine. Hello, says Sarah. Hello. Tracy says hello, hello. And then Nectaria says, when I do a big batch, do I put it in the oven? Or is that just when I make the non-emulsified body butter? This is the... Oh, yeah. This... Yes. You can do that. You can put it in the oven because you have to hold it for 20 minutes at a specific temperature, which is a lot harder with a big batch. So I melt everything down first and then I put it into the oven and hold it at temperature for that amount of time. Nectaria says that she's not judging me for my whole timeliness thing, that we've all been there. Thank you. Liz says good afternoon. Good afternoon, Liz. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with water. The reason that I'm just gonna pull the recipe up too so I have something to reference. The reason that I highly recommend an emulsified body butter, even if you don't want to use our recipe, just an emulsified body butter versus a regular whipped body butter, is that this is water and there's a lot of it, and water's pretty cheap. This is distilled water, so it's a little bit more expensive than regular water. But water is pretty cheap, and it fills up a lot of your recipe versus a whipped body butter, where the entire recipe is going to be those hard butters and oils, which are expensive. Especially, okay, talking about cocoa butter at the moment. Looking at you, Kobo. Okay. At the moment, she's very expensive. So this is a nice way to be able to create something that's really rich, really dense, feels amazing on the skin, but doesn't like have insane price points, because, you know, I always say you pass that on to your customer, but like the cost of cocoa butter, I was getting it for $5 a pound. I know most people are getting it for $8 a pound, but still, even $8 a pound is not too bad. But most people, okay, but now it's like the cheapest I can find it is like $20 a pound, but I've seen it at like Brambleberry. I don't know what they're on. It's like $46 a pound in Brambleberry. So it's crazy. Okay, so we're not trying to pay that. Also inside of here I have vegetable glycerin and sodium lactate. Those are humectants. I do talk in the ebook about, like, you don't have to have both. If you want to have one or the other, that's fine. This is just my personal preference. If you try the recipe and you're like, oh, it's too sticky, you know, you can reduce the humectants. You can take out the glycerin and swap it for sodium lactate. So there's a lot of wiggle room in there, okay? But that's what's in there. Okay. Then Sarah says the distilled water has doubled since COVID. Oh, that's crazy. I haven't noticed that because I don't like really, I don't know, I don't really pay attention. My husband buys a lot of my stuff for me, so. Okay, so into this, we're gonna add our hard ingredients, and I'm just gonna make our lives a little bit easier by just going ahead and heating everything up first. Okay, but I probably should have heated up my water first too. She's working, she's just slow. Maybe I'll just do this. Maybe I'll just cheat and put this back in here, because the thing is, when I add my hard, I was gonna say hard butters, but anyway, when I add these to the water, if they're not like kind of a similar temperature, then they're gonna reharden anyway. So if I'm gonna melt them, I might as well, you know, okay, put the water in at the same time too. Anyway, it's not that big a deal. We're starting off with shea butter. I'm gonna pop it into the microwave because I'm just gonna cheat a little bit. So we're gonna start off with shea butter, and this is a single batch from our ebook. You can make bigger batches, okay? We're going to start with shea butter. We're also going to use BTMS 25. This is a conditioning agent. It's really nice on the skin. You can also use BTMS 50 if you can't find BTMS 25, but it's like a lot more expensive. So BTMS 25, in my opinion, is worth it because it's cheaper. But if you only have BTMS 50, that's fine. It'll be more conditioning, which may not be a bad thing. But for me, this is fine. I'm also going to use cetyl alcohol. If you don't have cetyl alcohol, you have cetyl alcohol or whatever. Either works fine. So that's a hardener. I know it says the word alcohol in it, but it's like a fatty alcohol. So it's like the fatty acid chains. Anyway, it's not alcohol. It's not going to dry your skin out. And then this is stearic acid. This is it's naturally found in like hard butters and oils. We're just adding a little bit extra into our recipe. So I'm just gonna pop this in the microwave because we're gonna cheat a little bit. But that's why when I was sanitizing everything, I gave her a sanitization too, okay? Because I want her to be sanitized. Leia says, what's Robyn making today? Best ever emulsified body butter, baby. Ah, mic drop. Denise says, you think this will be the next recipe you'll invest in? Look, do it, Denise, because I'm saying, okay, this recipe, when I used to go to markets, like, my husband didn't go with me till, like, because he works all the time. You know, I don't expect him to go out and sweat on a weekend. Plus, it's my thing. So, I finally got him to go to a couple markets with me towards the end of when I was selling, and it was when my emulsified body butter was, like, nuts. It was, like, all people wanted. I had, like, anyway. So, I was, like, making it by the gallon, just, like, because I had people who wanted, like, tons of it. And so, we went to a market, and he was like, whoa, you just need to make all that stuff. And I was like, I'm telling you, people are crazy about this stuff. So what I would do is I'd have a sample jar. So people come up and I say, hey, do you want a sample? I just do like a little tiny dollop, because a little bit goes a long way, okay? A little tiny dollop on them. And then they go, okay, thank you, I'll try it and I'll come back. Which, market speak, if you've ever done a market, that's how somebody gets away from you to detach themselves. They're not probably going to come back, okay? That's just like the reality of it. I'm telling you, these people always came back. They would always come back, and they would always get like 3 or 4 of them at one time. To the point where at the time, I have to remember what I cannot remember what my cost of goods was for it at the time, because it's been like 4 or 5 years. But I had to increase the cost of goods far past what it actually cost me to make, because people were buying it so fast that I couldn't keep up with it. But it's very cheap to make, like, once you have all the ingredients. It might be a little bit expensive to invest in, because there's like argan oil and jojoba oil, which you don't have to use. You could use other oils if you wanted to, okay? You don't have to use all this. But once you have all those like initial ingredients, like, it just, like hotcakes, okay? Nectaria says, was it every fragrance? Did you try a few? I haven't had that issue, but also know I'm in a different making environment than you. Oh, wait. Maybe we're commenting to somebody? Oh, you didn't have any luck with that one. It's separated when you added fragrance. I have never had this separate. In fact, I consider it to be one of the most forgiving recipes, so that's interesting. I've never had it split on me. Anyway, that's fine though. That's interesting though. Maybe we should talk. I thought you were asking for markets. If I would do 2 fragrances generally for markets. I would have like black raspberry vanilla, because everybody likes it, and then I'd have like vanilla because everybody likes it. This thing's going. She's doing her thing now. I'm gonna turn it on just a little bit. Michelle says, finally made it to one of these. Yay! Nectar says, do you do a dollop of an unscented one or pick a fragrance for the day? Yeah. Don't do unscented. I feel like unscented, it does kind of have like not a great smell, because it's like, I don't know if anybody knows about this, but BTMS 50 and BTMS 25. BTMS 50 is worse than BTMS 25. But both of them have a distinct, girl, get to the doctor smell, okay? They have like a distinct fishy odor. BTMS 50 is way worse. You can open that and you're like, go to the doctor. This one's not as bad. So, okay, we're kind of like melty in here. It's not like 100% melted, but it's fine. So we're gonna add this. And I probably could have just added my liquid oils to this too, because it's kind of the same principle with them. Like, when I add them, they might firm up everybody just a little bit, but that'll be fine. So I think originally I used to do this where like the water was separate and the oils were separate, and I would add them into each other and then try to make sure that everything was at the same temperature. You don't really have to do that. You can just put it all in together. Okay, we're gonna put that in. We're just going to put all that in together. And then I'm going to kind of stir it. We're waiting for it to get to, oh no, where's my temp gun? Hold on. It hangs on a hook, so it's normally right there. Unless she wanders away. Oh, right there. So, Liz says your rosemary mint separated this weekend. What? That is so weird. I've never had, okay, but was it rosemary mint? Was it essential oil or was it fragrance oil? I have never had it separate, and I wonder, like, did you add it after? Okay, here's, I mean, of course you added it after the cook, but like, when I say that, what I mean is, you know, when you have, okay, like a lot of times I'll make it, set it in a tub, and come back like the next day and put fragrance in it. I'm not going to put fragrance in it. I mean, I will put fragrance in it today, right away. But a lot of times I come back later and do it. Because if it's separating, that means that it's not emulsifying correctly, and there's a problem with your emulsifier. Which, one of the things about this, where it's like, it's such a sure recipe, is that the BTMS 25, the acetyl alcohol, all that is formulated to be the right, you know what I'm saying? That's like all the correct amount. Versus like sometimes what we ran into with the emulsified sugar scrub was that I was like, oh, just use emulsifying wax. Not being aware of the fact that, like, when it says emulsifying wax NF, which means National Formulary, that apparently that means nothing. That means nothing, even though my whole making life, I believed that when it said emulsifying wax NF, that meant it was a standard. Apparently we don't have standards anymore. Okay. So that's why I find it curious and curiouser. But it's not, yeah, because especially if it's cooled off, like, it's already emulsified, so adding the fragrance to it shouldn't make it split. Okay, Leah says I'm very certain it was a temperature issue for me. Okay, yeah, that could be it. So that's what I'm saying, like, if it wasn't cooled off yet. And then, okay, Liz says it was a fragrance oil. That's interesting. Beth says, so wait, are you doing an even faster method than the quick and clever method? I mean, I'm doing the Lazy Girl special. The thing is that the quick and clever method is kind of based on this, because, like, how are you going to put a, what is that, a stock pot? Like, I can't put a stock pot in my microwave. So this is essentially like the same concept. So the quick and clever method is what we have in the ebook, and we just have, like, you put, basically do all this, you melt it down, but then you put it in your oven, and it's at temperature right now, so I should have set a timer, but let me set a timer right now so I don't, like, get distracted. But now that it's at this temperature, I'm gonna keep it here for 20 minutes, so we get to stare at each other for 20 minutes, guys. Okay, I feel like SpongeBob, where he's like, so we get to stare at each other for 20 minutes. So in a double boiler, no, in a stock pot, it's a lot harder because I'm having to constantly scrape the bottom. Like, I don't actually have to sit here and scrape it and stir it, but ADHD, it gives me something to fidget with, right? With a stock pot, you definitely do have to sit there, because otherwise the bottom will scald. So yeah, either works. But that's what's kind of, like, nice about this this recipe. It's pretty forgiving. Nectaria says, did your vanilla butter discolor? No. So, which is interesting. Part of what is happening when our fragrances are discoloring is oxidation. So it's being exposed to the air, and then that's causing the color to change. So with a emulsified body butter or even a lotion, sometimes for the lotions what you'll find is the top portion will start to discolor, like as the thing gets used up and there's more air in the container, that little top portion you might see like a line where it's like starting to discolor a little bit. But for the most part, the rest of it won't discolor. But the same thing goes for the emulsified body butter, and I never found that the jars ever had any discoloration, even after a significant amount of time. So it is pretty nice because it stays like really pretty and white and creamy, and people love that. Because for some reason we have tricked an entire population into thinking that vanilla means white. When vanilla is not white at all. What is going on my hat? Vanilla is not white at all. It's brown. White. Why have we? I guess it's because vanilla bean ice cream is white with little flecks of brown in it. But like, what have we done? Why have we done that? Where we convince people that vanilla is white? This is dumb. Vanilla is brown. Nectar says, interesting, your foaming soap discolored, maybe because there's a pump and some air is getting in there and your foam is coming out brown. That's really interesting. Jamie, dang it, why can I not remember her last name? Anyway, she's a friend of mine. She was doing some shower steamers at one point, and she was using vanilla fragrance oil in the shower steamers because a customer requested it. And she said that it was really cool because the vanilla steamers stayed white. And then she gave them to the customer, and she said that the customer reported back that once they were put in the shower with water, they immediately turned brown. So I don't know if it was the oxidation, the temperature, all those things kind of work together to increase discoloration and stuff like that. But yeah, that happened. So that is interesting. If you look, I'm looking at my arm over here, which is looking so pretty. You can't tell, but they're looking really pretty and smooth right now because I was testing. I know I've already said this, but I'm very thorough with my testing, so I don't want to like give you guys any false information. So I'm testing. I'm testing alternatives to cocoa butter for the bath crayons, which I've already posted the results of that to Patreon. And then today in Patreon, I'm going to post the other results. They're tentative results, but I'm going to post those. And then probably later on this week, I'll post in the group. But I have also tested in cocoa butter drizzle without cocoa butter, and I used the shower scrub bars. So I could have used like lotion bars. I could have used, there's a few other things I could have used to test it, but I was looking for like a recipe that we have that it's a lot of cocoa butter in it, and so I used the shower scrub bars. And so I tested some different alternatives with it. I definitely have my short list of things that I think are really good replacements for cocoa butter. I don't know if they all like 100% can be substituted. It's kind of like if you've ever done gluten-free cooking, where like there's really no one flour out there that can kind of do all the jobs that wheat flour can do. Wheat flour is pretty unique in like its ability to, you know, make a recipe rise, add those really nice big holes of like whatever that's called in a bread. So when you're doing gluten-free cooking, a lot of times you have to be like, okay, I need some tapioca flour and some rice flour and then some potato flour, and you have to like kind of make them together. This is not quite that, but there is kind of like seems like it's working pretty good for this, but it might not be the best solution for over here. So we're gonna cross our fingers. Oh, Beth, you said it was doing the same thing too, where your fragrance oil steamers were turning colors? Yeah. I mean, we could just try to reprogram our population, though. I don't know if we could do that. I'm gonna turn this down a little bit. She's at temperature. She's just like She is very rudely spraying stuff on me at the moment. Ma'am, I'm just gonna need you to not do that. I don't know. That seems dangerous, but that doesn't seem like a good idea, but I'm doing it. Everybody's so creative. See how that looks like that's something that you shouldn't be doing? Look how pretty and creamy it is. This is the other thing about this recipe is that it's almost already emulsified. Like already at this point, it's almost already emulsified. Like there's very little that you have to do when it gets to the time to emulsify it. And I have seen other people with their lotions and their body butters, and they're having to stick blend it, and then they wait and they watch it and they see if it breaks, and then they go back and they stick blend it some more, and then they wait and they watch it, see if it breaks, and they have to come back several times to see if it breaks. And like, I don't ever have to do this with her. She just like doesn't break. She's just my solid girl. So like somebody asked the other day what should be their first bath fizz and foam recipe, and I was like, okay, I consider Wonder Bar to be like the intro drug of bath fizz and foam products. But then after that, I personally think that the bath crayons is the easiest of all of them. But I also think that the best ever emulsified body butter, she just, I know it's intimidating for people because they see that and they're like, oh, that's a lot. There's like a whole thing to go through. I have to worry about emulsification and temperatures and holding it and preservatives and all that stuff, which I know seems like scary, but it's really not that bad. But I think that this one's also like really easy. She's pretty much like a sure thing. Except for the two people today who say that it's separated. I've never seen that before, so hi, thanks. But other than that, I've never ever had an issue with her. She's like so beginner friendly in my opinion. Leia says I have a burner like that. It will not get hot enough to boil water for pasta. What? Well, this one's pretty new. I would like to get an induction burner eventually, but it's like only it's like a year old maybe. And Beth says, you've seen people say, or you've seen if you say they make body butter in a large crock pot, and never have I ever tried, ever have I ever, never have I ever, ever have I ever tried that method. I haven't for this, but I do the shampoo bars a lot of times in the crock pot, or I used to do hot process soap instead of doing cold process soap, so I would do that in the crock pot. So I do have a couple crock pots here somewhere. I'm sure that would work though, if you could get it to the right temperature and make it hold. I feel like I would still probably be going in and stirring it, just because like, hi, hello, ADHD, but also, sorry, my nose itches so bad. Also, like, I don't know. I'd be worried about the temperature holding, but is like, if you have like a dependable one, mine's like kind of janky. We have 4 minutes and 53 seconds left. I do not have to start this whole time. I'm just being extra. Here's the deal. Okay, so you're like, oh, I'm interested in this, but I don't know if I want to invest in it. And I've heard people say, like, does anybody sell bath fizz and foam stuff so I could try it first? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, we have a D-Stash group that we started, okay? And on Mondays, okay, we let people sell finished products, okay? Like, instead of just destashing your crock pot that you're not going to use anymore, you could sell your emulsified body butter that you're like, I couldn't make this go at my market or whatever. Just for some reason, it's just, I love it so much, it's toxic for me and I have to get rid of it. Anyway, you could sell that. So that's all like a little transition for me to say that this batch, along with couple other batches, along with a I had a batch that was in a tub that was this big, okay, that I made in January, which is about 6 months ago, that I was like, I will not be able to use before it expires. Or not expires, but it's like, it's best used by it. Like, I want to get it out to a customer before that point, right? So, I might have put it into some deli containers, the base, and like dated it and said, best by this date, like use it by this. And I may be about to destash that. Because for Make With Me Monday, I try to alternate. I think the last one, I just separated the pre-made base and colored it. So for this one, I was like, well, I have to make, I don't have to, but like I like to alternate. So this one I wanted to show actually making the base. And I was like, well, I don't have two bases that are two separate dates, and that's just like confusing. So anyway, I'm going to be destashing that. I am going to put a limit on it, because the point is not for me to make a bunch of money selling you this stuff. It's to get it to you to try it if you want to try it. Try before you buy, baby. So you could give it a shot. Yeah, so you could either get like a 2-ounce jar, or you could get some base if you want to give the base a shot. Okay? Okay, Lenore says that you're separated as well, and so what you do is after it's set up and it's cooled, you come back and whip it before filling the jars. It was lighter and fluffier and no more separation. I'm wondering though, like, yeah, I'm wondering if it's like a temperature issue, or if it just wasn't fully emulsified, like we thought it was fully emulsified and then it wasn't fully emulsified. But at least that's a really good workaround or hack or whatever for anybody who's like, oh no, I'm nervous, I wanted to buy it, but now all these people are saying it's causing them problems, which, like, sometimes when we release a recipe, right, the Facebook group gets flooded with people who are like, hey, I'm making this and it's not working, and then other people are like, oh no, I'm scared to get it now, and I'm like, no, trust me, like, we have the most issues we've ever had was the emulsified sugar scrub, and it was still only 1% of our customers, because I know the numbers of people who bought it and then the number of people who complained. It was about 1% who either emailed us, put it on the Facebook group, or whatever. And I even started a feed. I was like, if you're having a problem with it, post here so I can kind of like get you all in one area and figure out what's going on. So, and I like stayed up. I spent like an entire weekend. My family was like, we're on vacation, and I was like, not me right now, okay? With anxiety over that. So like, I promise you, it's like less than 1%, but it is good to have other solutions. And it's good. It's interesting that you said that you whipped it. A lot of people do take this, and then in pictures they will like pipe it into the jars, and it has this really beautiful piped top. But I'm just here to tell all my friends that I love who are here right now, that I love right now, that it will not hold that piping. So, but the whipping it is interesting, because I bet it does make it a little bit fluffier, and it will hold like air pockets, right? So I bet it gave it like a really, oh, my timer's going off. Stop. I bet it gave it like a really dense, like, probably like a mousse / velvet texture, if I had to guess. Knowing my girl right here. This is one recipe right next to the high humidity recipe. This is a recipe I've been using for years. Leia says you have all the recipes that Bath Food & Foam sells, and you're almost all sold out. And it's time to make some new and fresh ones. Yay! We love that. We love it. One thing you can do to help cool it down, which I don't think I'm gonna do. Hold on, I need to get something to put underneath this, or it's gonna slide. One thing that you can do is you can transfer it to a different container to help it cool down faster. So like this is in this metal pot, and it's just going to take a long time for it to cool down. I am going to keep checking the temperature. So the reason I'm checking the temperatures is I want it to cool down to under whatever my preservative's temperature is. My little guide says 110. Whatever your temperature is that your preservative can be added at, you want it to come down to that. I am going to use Liquid Germall Plus. If you want to use a different preservative, go for it. I wouldn't suggest Optifin because it's oil soluble, and there's not a ton of oils in this recipe, right? I also wouldn't suggest Optifin ND or Optifin Plus. I can't remember now. My brain just thinks they're the same, but they're not. Anyway, that's why I use Liquid Germall Plus. Oh no, she's so tiny. That's why I use Liquid Germall Plus. Girl, you can't. Oh my god, she's just like going everywhere. That's why I use Liquid Germall Plus. I might put it in another container just to get it to like chill out. Oh my god. But yeah, the other thing that might cause, like, most of the time separation is either going to be your fragrance oil or your preservative. So if you're using a preservative like Optifin, number one, you shouldn't use Optifin because this is water soluble. There's a lot of water in this, so we want a water soluble preservative because that means that it's going to be attaching itself to all that water that's in our recipe and able to like fully disperse into our butter, lotion, whatever this is. See, I'm just going to put it in here because number one, I can't get it to mix correctly anyway. So thick and beautiful already. I know you can't see it because you're just looking at the big old backside of this pot, but hold on. I'm going to show you in just a second. Trying to get everything out of here. Everything beautiful and good out of here. Just getting it all. Hold on. Don't want to waste nothing. Okay. So you can see, even though it's not like completely emulsified, right? Because it's still wiggly. Like, it's already so thick. I should have, but did not, weigh my water in my container before I got started, for this reason that if you don't do that, some of the water evaporated when I was letting it heat and hold, right? But I've gone back before and been like trying to figure out how much water I actually lost, and it's such a small amount. I don't think that it really matters. It'll just make it thicker. So it's like already very thick recipe, and so it's just gonna make it thicker. But it's literally probably like 2 or 3 grams of water that I lost for a batch this size. It's very, very minuscule. Minuscule? There was a word I was trying to say the other night, and I was like, that doesn't sound right at all. Philosophy. How does that sound right? When you stop and think about it, doesn't it sound like you're saying it wrong? Philosophy. It doesn't sound right. Okay, anyway. So I'm just gonna get all this butter. Oh, also I got this new stick blender. Shh, don't tell my other stick blender that. Okay, well, she's done. And it just so beautiful, straight into your skin. Okay, she's done. Okay, all right, I'm just gonna spill it everywhere. Great. Okay, so to add fragrance to this, let's check our temps. It's not like 130, 120. So I'm going to keep letting it go down, get lower in temperature, stirring it as I go, because that's going to help cool it down too. But I have some vitamin E tocopherol right there. I have some fragrance oil, which we're going to use black raspberry vanilla. And I have some preservative. And that's why I said, you know, you gotta choose your own preservative. Okay, it's like a choose your own adventure, but it's with the preservative. We do have like a really comprehensive list of preservatives and their properties. We do have that now on Bath Fizz and Foam. So I highly encourage you to go look at that if you're unsure about preservatives or which one you should be using. There is a section. I had an internal struggle with whether to put this on the preservatives, okay? Because there is something called the free from movement. And if you're like, free from what? Yes, that is exactly the question. Free from what? Because it changes all the time. Which, maybe I should just, okay. There are some things that we're like, hey, wow, that probably shouldn't be in our things. Can we stop adding known carcinogens and stuff? Right, there are some things like that. There are also things where it's like, one doctor did one study that could not be replicated by her peers, and now an entire population of people think that this one ingredient is not good, when in reality there is no scientific evidence to back that up, but the people are clamoring and screaming that they want products that are free from this ingredient, because people are, for lack of a better term, people are dumb. Like, nobody's gonna go do the research. Like, not you. It's just like, out there, they don't know. They just, like, they get an advertisement and they just like, oh, okay, that's how it should be. And they don't know. It's just the same way that they think CeraVe is the best lotion for dry skin, or Dove body wash is like so good for dry skin. Oh my god. So, okay. But I still included the free from in the thing. Do with it what you will. I had an internal struggle because I was like, I don't want to keep propagating this line that I honestly don't feel is, but at the same time, people are going to ask, so. And that's all I've got to say about that. Okay, so this is at temperature where it is fine for me to add my fragrance oil, my fragrance oil, my all the things, etc. Let me get my little stand so I can bring you down close, so I can show you how I mix this in. Because I do get asked this question a lot. Okay. How do I mix this in? How do I get the fragrance? How do I get the color to mix in? Can you see? Hold on. There's colors like, I think the light is washing it up. Can you see now? Okay, that's better. So people ask, how can you get it to where the colorant doesn't make... No, now you definitely can't see it anymore. Okay, this is great. How can I get it to where... Okay, it's dark, but at least you can... Well, I don't know. I'm done trying. How can I get it to where the mica doesn't leave like little speckly specks? So I will add my preservative. If I've already added my preservative and I've master batched this, then I'll just add my fragrance oil like this. So I'll just kind of scoop my fragrance oil in here like this. And then I will add my mica. Normally I measure it, but today we're just gonna use our eyeballs and assume that they know what they're doing. Okay, so now I've added my mica into that oil, and I can kind of stir it into that oil because mica is oil dispersible. Okay. And now it's not going to leave little specks in my body butter. And the other good thing about doing it like this, especially if it's like in a container like this, which is like going to be harder for me to kind of get down into every place, I will know now whether or not this has gotten down to every little place where it's supposed to go. And it does look crazy right now, right? Okay, it looks wacky. That's fine. We're just going to keep mixing it. It'll all mix in. But this is kind of good because it lets me know that I don't know when it went offline, but you're not missing a ton. Anyway, it will, you know, I'll know if down there it's not stirred in or anything like that, okay? And you're just going to keep mixing. Now, I could have left this. I'm going to turn the lights back on and bring it back up. Hi, hello. Hello, Clarice. But I'm not going to, well, okay. Okay. I could have left it unfragranced. Still put the preservative, still with the vitamin E oil, but left it unfragranced. Put it in a tub. And then anytime I wanted to make some, I could pull it out, pull out the portion that I wanted, and add fragrance oil at whatever percentage my fragrance oil allows for, right? 1 to 2% typically, okay? And then I could have, it would be master batched at that point. It's considered master batched. Yeah. The FDA actually has this guide for the use of environmental marketing claims. I could read it, but it'll probably make me depressed. To be perfectly honest, I read so much when I was like looking through, when I was working on the preservatives. I read so much about it. I wrote a lot about it too. I have an entire blog post that I didn't post because I was like, this is such a hot take, and I'm just gonna, it's like very polarizing. And while I may be fine with being polarizing in my personal life and my business life, I'm trying to stay a little bit neutral. So if you could just guess where I went with it, then if I'm saying it's polarizing, you can guess where I went with it. What was terrible was that I had to read tons of articles. I had to read tons of scientific reports about the tests they did to prove this thing wasn't dangerous. And do you know how many rabbits and guinea pigs had to die for that? That I had to read about. I happen to like rabbits. I kind of think they're jerks, but I do happen to like rabbits. I happen to used to have rabbits. Okay? Do I want to hear about all the bad things that happened to rabbits when we gave them 3,000% the amount of this ingredient over like a 3-week time span? No. Do I think that if you gave anything 3,000% of it? Yeah, I think anything's gonna get effed up if you give it like way more than it should have. Anyway, okay, I'm done. But maybe I'll talk about it. Okay, just trying to put gloves back on. Come on. Just let me go. you try to explain to people, it's my job. It's not easy. It's hard. Okay. I'm so glad I sterilized you. Sterilized and sanitized. So, hereforth and forever, be known as sterilized. Okay, I'm going to pull these out. These are 2-ounce jars. I have like 10 zillion of these 2-ounce jars that really don't, like, I'm trying to switch to clear jars for bath fizz and foam because when I'm taking pictures for social media and stuff, obviously it's nicer for it to have a clear jar. But if I'm just going to be kind of giving these away at cost, well, I'm not giving them away at cost. I'm giving them, I'm going to be destashing, well, this is pretty. I'm going to be destashing them at a very low introductory rate, okay? But, yeah, it doesn't matter if they're not, like, in pretty jars for that. Do I wish they were in pretty jars? Yes. Or, like, clear jars, you know, not pretty, because these are pretty. Amber, low wall, low profile, double wall, thick wall, whatever it's called. Jars. Can't tell me it gets prettier than that. Okay, maybe. I'll probably go back over them when I'm done and like smooth out all the tops. But yeah, this is basically what you do. You put them in your jars now. If they're still a little bit warm, you can leave it and let it cool down. I've kind of gone back and forth as to whether or not that's necessary over the years. There is enough preservative in it that it's fine. If there's like the reason people would say like, oh, leave the lid off until it cools down is so that you don't have like where it sweats and then there's sweat on the lid of it or whatever. But I just kind of have gotten away from that because I think that there is enough preservative in it intrinsically to preserve it against its own sweat, you know. Speaking of sweat, I've been using the Bath Fizz and Foam deodorant, which love it. I'm also doing deodorant samples in the D-Stash group. So if you haven't, like, if you don't know what's going on with the D-Stash group, come on to the D-Stash group. But then I like realized like, oh, I'm doing these deodorant samples, but like I'm not prefacing it with like the fact that like, hey, you do have to kind of go through like a detox phase when you're first using deodorant. So maybe you might try it and you might not be like a pretty princess for a minute. You might be like a stinky. I was gonna say stinky Sally, but that's kind of rude. A stinky slug. I don't know. But I think because of that, I like because I have anxiety dreams sometimes. I have wild dreams, but anyway. And I had a dream that like I had deodorant on, but I was like smelled really bad, and like everywhere I was going, I was like stinky. Which is funny to think about now. But at the time, I woke up and I was like, okay, I'm fine, I'm good. Okay. So, these are 2 ounces. They're going to be in the D-Stash group for you guys to have and to hold. I post made things on Mondays. I ship on Fridays. I don't ship for Friday because it takes me all week to get my ish together, okay? I'm trying to get my husband to come help me to do stuff, but he's like, oh, I have a job. Like, whoa, rude, selfish, okay? Anyway, I will post links in the description so you can find our D-Stash group. This recipe right here, where I got a lot of these ingredients. Where I got this shirt, I want to believe in bath bombs, which it's a nod to the X-Files, and if you know that, we probably can be best friends, okay? And I will go back through after the live and double check that there weren't questions I missed. But if there was a good question that I missed. Okay, and then Patreon. Let's do Patreon after party. Come to Patreon if you're in Patreon. Give me like 20-30 minutes reset. We're gonna finish testing the surfactants for bath bombs. Okay. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Why did I take my glove off? No. Happy making. Boop bop.